Hey, it's Ramsey Dewey over here in Shanghai, China. Welcome to another edition of Q&A with the Coach. Today we have a million questions from a million different people, asking me essentially how do we train striking and grappling concurrently? People who are in a situation where they are only able to take, say, a jiu-jitsu class, but they want to learn how to strike. They want to be well-rounded, competent mixed martial artists, or they can only take a boxing or a kickboxing class. And they don't want to be at a disadvantage to a grappler, but they, for whatever reason, can't take a wrestling or a jiu-jitsu or a judo class too. And for some reason, training both concurrently is just impossible to them. And they tell me, we understand that MMA is its own unique sport and that you should train striking and grappling concurrently, but I can't, so what do I do? As I always say, do not focus on what you cannot do, focus on what you can do. If you want to be a proficient striker and a proficient grappler, you must train striking and grappling concurrently. I'm often asked, Ramsey, should I train jiu-jitsu first for like 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 years and then, and only then, start to train striking so I can be good at MMA? No, absolutely not. You have to train both concurrently. I've had this experience many times of training with really good grapplers, really good sport jiu-jitsu guys who had never done any striking whatsoever. And as soon as you introduce the element of striking, they suck. Suddenly their grappling becomes useless. And I hate to see that. I hate to see really good grapplers flounder like that. On the other hand, I've seen complete beginners, novices, who made a simple effort of training grappling and striking concurrently flourish in that same environment and overcome the odds that these experienced grapplers could not, because they didn't have that experience of striking. It's a whole different animal. So you have to do both concurrently if you want to be good at it. If you don't have the time, if you're one of those guys who can only show up to the gym 2 or 3 times a week and you just do a jiu-jitsu class or you just do a Muay Thai class and that's it, and for whatever reason you tell yourself that's all I can do. Okay. Does your gym have heavy bags? Does your gym have other humans? Probably. Probably. If not, maybe find a gym that does. If you are a grappler, if you're in a jiu-jitsu class or a wrestling class, and you don't have time to go to the striking class or whatever it is, make sure that you are spending time striking as well. How do you do that? Well, get on that heavy bag and do a few rounds every day on that thing. Is there another human at that gym? Get them to hold pads if they don't know how. Well, watch a few videos on the internet. Learn how. And practice. And do a few rounds of that every day. Shadow box, you can do that anywhere, anytime. Do that every day. Do a few rounds of that every day. Get yourself a double-end bag. Hang that up. Those are cheap. Those are easy to hang up. Box with it. Several rounds every day. So make sure that while you are grappling, you are actively doing something to improve your striking every day. Maybe it won't be world class, but it will be there. That's important, that it is there. That you don't just freeze saying, I have absolutely zero experience in striking, even though I'm a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt and that guy just punched me in the face and I don't know what to do. That's embarrassing. Man, I saw that in a couple of years ago. They had this MMA event, the Dragon Fighting Championships. I was doing referee work and judging fights there. And they flew in these guys from Brazil who were basically sport jiu-jitsu black belts without a great deal of striking experience. And they flew in this team of Russian Sambo fighters under the direction of Fyodor Emelianenko. Fyodor was right there. He was sitting behind me. It was cool. I was trying to sneak selfies of him. Anyway, embarrassing story about me right there. But what happened? What followed? Essentially, these jiu-jitsu guys, these sport jiu-jitsu guys with very limited experience in striking, fighting these very well-rounded Russian Sambo fighters who may not have had the depth of experience on the ground as their jiu-jitsu counterparts, but had much more depth in mixing their martial arts, if you will, you know what happened? It was like watching little kids trying to fight their dads and getting spanked. These Sambo fighters absolutely crushed these Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belts and made it look easy. Made it look like small children floundering. It was kind of sad. It was sad because you saw these... It was like seeing a stained glass window, a beautiful work of art just smashed with a sledgehammer. Stained glass windows don't win fights. Work wins fights. So you need to put in the work in addition to your jiu-jitsu class. Do some bag work, do some shadow boxing, do all of that. Don't wait. You can find a few minutes of extra time. Man, even Andre Galvao, I talk about him a lot. One of my favorite grapplers. One reason that I love his mentality is that he always does a little bit extra by himself after class. Not striking, just more jiu-jitsu, basically, more solo drills. And because of that, he becomes better at jiu-jitsu. Well, what if after class you take that 10 minutes and you work a little bit on your striking? Guess what? You will become better at striking concurrently with your jiu-jitsu. Now, flip the table here. What if you're in a striking class, a Muay Thai class, a boxing class, some other striking class, and you don't want to be a fish out of water if somebody takes you down. You don't want to freeze if somebody starts grappling with you. Well, do you have other humans at that school? Do you have a mat at that school? You probably do if it's a martial arts school in this modern world. And if not, shop around until you can find one. Is there another human there? Talk to that human. Talk to that person. Become friends with that person. Express interest. Hey, let's learn how to grapple. Let's practice together. Let's spend 10 minutes after class rolling. Let's spend 10 minutes after class practicing our takedowns. Let's spend 10 minutes after class working on this drill of this technique of this thing I saw on the internet or whatever it is. So that when push comes to shove and somebody starts grappling with you, you don't freeze and you think, okay, I actually have some experience with this. I'm going to keep moving. I'm going to keep fighting. I was training this young woman. She has had 2 amateur boxing matches, just won her last fight. Awesome performance. And she wants to do Muay Thai fights now. And so I've been training her to do Muay Thai fights. Well, not recently because of the quarantine, but last I saw her, right? And so we get in the ring and we do a bit of light contact sparring, very light, and she's got pretty decent kicks too, especially for a boxer, pretty decent kicks. And then I grab a collar tie and I bring up a knee and she freezes, just totally freezes, stops moving, stops functioning. And I ask her, like, why did you stop? You need to keep moving no matter what. And she's like, I don't know what to do there. I've never done that before. I've never grappled before. And of course that makes perfect sense. That is what happens when we find ourselves a fish out of water in an experience that we have no context of experience for. We tend to freeze. It's not fight or flight. I mean, freezing is probably the most common human reaction. There was a video floating around the internet a while back of this woman who got stabbed to death. She's walking down the street with 2 of her friends, and this guy runs up to her with a knife and starts stabbing her, and her friends stand there and they freeze. They put their hands on their faces like they can't move. They are paralyzed with fear. They don't know how to respond to that situation. They've never experienced that before. And a lot of angry people on the internet said, what a bunch of crappy friends those were. If I was there, I would have done this and this and this and this. You know what? If you were there, you probably would have frozen too. Most of you. Because you've never experienced that before. If somebody ran up and just started killing your best friend right in front of you, you would probably freeze because you have zero context for that experience. Most of you. Some of you have sent me some really interesting letters and you guys lead interesting lives. And you've seen some things in your life and maybe you would respond very differently. But the average human would do exactly what her friends did. They are not bad people, they are normal people. That is a normal human reaction. So when we find ourselves in a situation we don't have experience or context for, we tend to freeze. Don't let that be you. So a few minutes after class, 10 minutes, as long as it took you to watch this video so far, get your striking in or get your grappling in. You can. You can. Stop telling yourself, I can't, I can't, I can't, and start telling yourself, you can, I will. Thanks for watching. Get out there and train.